And I mean, this is a simple thing for everybody to do just when they're pulling up ChatGPT and interacting with it and looking to produce something a little bit more serious than just asking it a question of what's a good recipe to make with some extra chicken that I haven't. That is provide it more information. Define a role, okay? You are an expert in online digital marketing with emphasis on social media ads. Tell it the task, break out the details, provide it as much background information as you can. If you're looking to have it define something for you to help you come up with, say, a strategy related to, online ads, give it a lot of information about your company and about the demographic that you're after, and then provide a level of specificity with what you are looking for. But don't just settle for saying like, give me the copy for a great ad. No, give me 20 examples of good ads that I can draw from. So we often don't ask enough of it, and we don't give it enough to work with. I mean, it'll try. I always find the best results when I get a little long-winded with my prompts, to be honest.
And I love actually giving it examples. I think that's another key point of this is the type of output that I'm looking for. If you say, hey, I'm looking for a report, well, how long should that report be? What are you looking? Is it a short report? Is it a longer report? I sometimes now you can actually upload pictures. So let's say you're creating an ad or a certain ad copy. You're going to say is take a picture of the ad from, whatever it is, either online or it's a print ad, and say, hey, I really like this style, this type of language. There's lots that you can do. Like you said, is really, putting and investing into the ask without, getting, I think people are like, just have this expectation. Well, I just ask it a question and immediately understands exactly what I'm looking for. It's kind of like, if you're married, your wife or husband, assuming, oh, you should know what I'm thinking, right? ChatGPT is the same way in many ways. So,
and it'll try. It's an intern that never says no. In fact, I don't know that most people know, but you can actually in ChatGPT, you can set kind of what it refers to as a system prompt if you go in your account preferences, and you can provide some kind of underlying prompt information that will be applied to every conversation you have with it. And I don't know if you've noticed, but sometimes ChatGPT can be a little over affirming. And so I actually provide information to it to say, hey, I want you to be very straight with me. If I am giving you ideas that don't make sense and are stupid, tell me. Don't look to be always, building my confidence and, agreeing with what I'm saying. Hold it to account and, give me something that's going to be useful. But, just like getting back to the intern, the intern's going to say no sometimes, but the better I can equip them to do the job, the more likely that they will be able to do it and do it well. And you talked a little bit about providing examples. One of the things that I've done is I've provided it a bunch of different examples of my writing style in a number of different contexts. If I'm doing something formal, like if I'm writing a speech or something of that nature, or if I'm writing emails, how does my personality show through in those? And I'll provide a bunch of different examples. So when I'm actually asking it to create content for me that I'm going to be using, or maybe it's part of, some emails or other communication, I can reference those and I can say, hey, I'm looking for output that speaks in my voice as, these examples that I've provided you. And I get much better results. And I think there is a diminishing tolerance for AI-based communication. And so it's really important for us to use the tool well, so we can avoid that, because it's going to be a game changer. But you can also kind of recognize those things that were just spit out without much training or prep.
Absolutely. So with that in mind, what are some of the, I think there's some new ways to really interface, and I say new, but how would you interface to be able to give, ChatGPT or the LLMs some of this background information? What are some of the ways that people might be able to do that they don't normally think of?
Well, one of the simple ways, if you're using ChatGPT, again, I tend to focus on that a lot because that's what most people are familiar with. There's other tools out there, and most of them have something that is pretty equivalent to what I'm going to mention. But in ChatGPT, they have what's referred to as projects, and you can use it in a simple form where it's essentially just like a folder where you have certain types of chats within that project. But you can be much more specific in it as well. And you can provide a library of uploaded content and specific system prompts so that every conversation that happens underneath that project, that information is going to be applied to it. So it can draw from that more consistently, and you don't have to just keep re-uploading content. because that's one of the things that, we want to be smart about in our use. If you have a task that you regularly do, take the time to work up a good prompt for it that you can reuse. Obviously, update as necessary with the specifics, but also use AI to help you develop that prompt. I mean, that's one of the, secret tools I think sometimes that we use is like, we use AI to help make our AI prompts, and it will help us think about situations that, we might not have initially asked. And it will help also refine some of what we're asking for an output. So, in the very simplest manner of approaching those OpenAI ChatGPT projects are a really nice way to group some information that you want regularly applied to any of the conversations within that. And even it's just a nice way to organize like conversations so it's easier to reference. Because if you look in my ChatGPT history, I mean, I have to be really careful with renaming conversations so I can actually find things that are important that I've done.